Hi all, it's the best time of the year. It's finally fall. We're gonna be making some pumpkin cookies today to celebrate. And we can call these pumpkin snickerdoodles or pumpkin doodles, whatever you want. They are basically like a pumpkin cookie mashed with a snickerdoodle. So all you're gonna need for this recipe today is some softened butter. This is 3/4 of a cup. You will need a 1/2 cup of pumpkin. Of course, you have to have pumpkin in your pumpkin cookies. You will need 1 full cup of packed brown sugar. I like to use dark brown sugar for pretty much all of my brown sugar needs, so that's what I'll be using today. Then in here, I have my last 2 eggs at room temperature. I'm only going to use the yolks. And then I've got 1 full tablespoon of pumpkin pie spice. I've got a 1/2 tablespoon of baking soda, baking powder, and salt in here. And eventually I'll mix them all together with the flour. Then I've got 1 cup and 3/4 of another cup of flour in there. I just use all purpose. And then in here I have 2 teaspoons of vanilla bean extract. So there's some vanilla beans in there. And then that's all you'll need for the cookies. But then for the spiced sugar on top of it, you'll need a 1/4 cup of just white sugar. Don't want to spill this, but I hope you can see it. And a 1/2 teaspoon of pumpkin pie spice as well. So very pumpkin-y, it will be super yummy, and let's get baking. The most important part in my opinion is making sure to blot out the extra moisture from the pumpkin. Just so you know, the pumpkin might dye the things that you use. So if you're gonna use a tea towel for this, it might turn orange permanently. So I recommend using paper towels. I also ruined the spatula that I was using in that clip. So just make sure you're okay with dyeing whatever tools you're using. Then next is just combining the dry ingredients and helps get rid of lumps to make a smoother combination once you add them to the wet ingredients. And then you cream together the butter and the sugar. And again, I think dark brown sugar makes a better flavor profile for the cookies, so I would definitely recommend using dark brown sugar. Even if the recipe originally calls for light brown sugar, I think you can do this in any recipe. So cream together the butter and the sugar and then separate the yolks out of the egg, and you can add that in with the creamed sugar and butter as well as the vanilla. And the reason why you take the egg whites out is because the cookie's already going to be moist enough with the addition of the pumpkin puree. So that's why you remove it, just because you don't want your cookie to be a wet glob. So then you can add in your pumpkin puree once your mixture is light and fluffy and it changes color just a little bit, as you can see. So then you have your batter all mixed together, and you can add in your dry ingredients as your last step. Make sure to not overmix. You want a light fluffy cookie, not a dense one, so you don't want to develop too much gluten through this mixing process. So just mix it up until it's nice and combined. Make sure you scrape down the edges at the end of the process, and then you're ready to scoop the cookies out. I use a 1.5 tablespoon cookie scoop. I scoop all of them out, and then eventually you'll see that I'm gonna roll them in the sugar mixture that we have already made. So once you're done scooping all the cookies out, you'll roll them in that, and then they'll be ready to go in the oven. I'd recommend just giving them a little flattening on the top, just because I like a more even bake on my cookie, and this will help them be cooked more in the middle. But if you prefer a little bit more of a chewier cookie that's a little bit more moist in the middle, you don't have to do that at all. One thing I'd like to note is that if you bake 12 cookies on a cookie sheet like I did here, they might flatten out a little bit more and touch each other in the end, which is totally fine by me. It doesn't really affect anything, in my opinion, with the flavor or the texture really. But if you like a fluffier cookie, you can put them in the fridge for a minute and cook maybe like 6 on a tray. But otherwise, you don't have to switch anything up. Here they are out of the oven, looking so delicious. Wish I could bite into one right now. But they cooled on the tray for a little bit, and you can see they kind of flattened out. Now they look like a perfect pumpkin snickerdoodle delish. Okay guys, I'm done with baking all the cookies. The recipe's super easy. I hope everyone can give it a try, and I'll do a little taste test with you guys right now. I already actually filmed this clip and it was blurry, so I'm gonna redo it, but the texture is amazing, but the taste is also so good. There is nothing wrong with a cookie like this. No chocolate chips, which chocolate chip cookies are my favorite, but you could definitely add them in if you wanted to. I kind of find it refreshing though, because it is a simple cookie, yet it has that pumpkin fall flavoring to it with the sugar on the outside. It's so good. Thank you guys so much for watching. Stay tuned for more fall content like this, and I hope you have a great day.